On this video, Emily and I share with you the story of our very first date, and we give you guys some practical Christian dating tips. Check it out. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of That Christian Vlogger, and today Emily is with me and we're going to share with you guys another story. The last episode we shared with you guys the story about how we first met, and we asked you guys what story you would want to hear next, and everyone basically said, yeah, how did our first date go? And so we're going to share with you guys a little bit about that. Sorry real quick about all the mess in the house. We are in the process of moving and basically get everything all packed up, so there's like boxes in the back and stuff like that, and so that's why I want to share with you guys a quick story, and we hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, so first date, right? It was like basically a week after we had met at the speed dating event, right?
Yeah, so we just met at the speed dating event. We exchanged each other's contact, and then I actually reached out to you first.
Yeah, I'm old-fashioned, so that's good.
So I waited like a day or two to call her, and I was like, hey, let's meet up, and then we decided to do lunch. Yeah, like lunch.
We went to a Thai food restaurant, and it was a Friday afternoon, and basically we just sat for probably about 3 hours and just had conversations about our lives leading up to that moment, our passions, kind of where we've seen God leading us and stuff like that.
How did you feel going into the date?
I was a little nervous. I fixed my hair real nice because usually my hair doesn't look very nice. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't dress up too much, just like jeans and a sweater maybe.
And did you do any like homework on me beforehand?
Yeah.
Like before I called her, I did like the whole Facebook stalking stuff and like looking through photos, and one of the things that stood out to me actually that she didn't mention in our speed date when we first met was that she actually could play the instruments and sing and stuff like that. I found her, the instruments. I saw her on Facebook doing like some special musics at church, playing the piano and singing and stuff. I was like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Yeah, and for him, it was kind of the same thing. I kind of Facebook stalked him with my girlfriends, and I was living with like 3 other housemates at the time, all girls, and we're all just like on Facebook stalking, and I saw he was very active. He rock climbed, he rode bikes, he did like a lot of active things. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I like to be active too, So I got there a little bit early, and I'm like obviously nervous and like just wondering how this is going to go and how it's going to work out, and we ended up talking, and I felt like we really hit it off. Like, what were some of the things that stood out to you about me? Some of the things were... you were really into weightlifting at the time, so like I'm like, wow, I've never heard of this weightlifting Olympic sport. Like, whoa. I really thought he was like an Olympian at first. I'm like, whoa. But then he kind of described it more. I'm like, okay, that's still cool. He like competes and stuff, and he's really into CrossFit. I'm like, wow, I've never even tried CrossFit. Like, scary type of a thing. We also had like conversations about how we like really accepted Christ for the first time in our lives, and the impact of those moments. So. Yeah,
and Emily was sharing a little bit about like the story of one of her brothers who was like a really big impact on her life, and how like that helped her to like really want to follow after God and stuff like that. And it was kind of cool just to see that background. Now, throughout the entire time that we were having the meal, like Emily, it was so fun. She just kept glowing and glowing, and like whenever we would say something, and then like I would say something about me, and then she would share the same thing about her, she'd always be like, oh my goodness, we have so much in common.
I think like the main thing though that I was really surprised about was that he's a vegetarian, and I grew up vegetarian, and usually like when you meet like Filipinos especially, they're usually not vegetarian or grew up that way, which he didn't. But even among the Adventist church, we're both Seventh-day Adventists, and a lot of people are vegetarian, but there's probably 50% that aren't vegetarian either. It's usually a common thing to be vegetarian if you're Adventist. But so like all the guys I've kind of been interested in the past or dated have eaten meat, and they're still Adventists.
And you were born and raised vegetarian, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, when I found out he was vegetarian, I was so happy, because I'm like, wow, I can like eat the same things. We can cook meals together.
Instead of like having me to order one dish and you order a different
thing. Yeah, so that was really awesome.
That's why you always like stealing my food. Whenever we go out to eat, like Emily, like I didn't do this on the first date, but like I think it's harder for me like later on as we started dating a little bit more. Like I would always like, hey, do you want, like, I'm gonna get some fries. Do you want some fries? She's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get my order of French fries. Next thing I know, there goes Emily's hand, just like reaching. I'm like, get out of here! What are you doing?
Get out, yeah.
And she's like, I just want some. I'm like, no, I was gonna get you some if you wanted some.
Yeah, I like to steal his food.
So
I just like to taste everything.
Oh yeah.
I think.
So so like throughout the entire date, she's like, "Oh, we have so much in common," and like to me, I was just like, "Wow, like this is really cool," because I was in like a couple like the relationships that I were prior to Emily, like it was really kind of touch and go. It wasn't really like I didn't really connect with them on the same level. Like I was interested in them, but I felt like I was kind of having to convince the other person, like, "Oh no, like let's give it a shot," or whatever the case is. And no one wants to be in that type of relationship. No one wants to feel like the only reason why they're there is because you have to like convince them. You want someone that likes you for you. And I definitely did get that feeling from that meal, from that conversation.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell them what happened after the meal?
Oh yeah. Okay, so we had this meal and we were talking for quite some time. And basically at some point, like towards the end of our conversation, the waitress or waiter, I forget, comes in and like taps me on the shoulder, and like we're looking at each other, and she taps me on the shoulder, and I kind of look back. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Do either of you happen to know the people that were sitting behind me?" And I look back, and like the table is empty, and I'm like, "No, I didn't really notice." And of course, you know, like you kind of go into the restaurant, and you're just like got your butterflies in your stomach, and you're all nervous, or whatever the case is. And I'm like, "No, I didn't even know who was there, or whatever the case is." And she's like, "Well, that's really weird." And Emily didn't know them either. And the waitress was like, "Yeah, they just told me that they wanted to pay for your entire meal and that they wanted to get you guys dessert too." And I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool." And for me, like in that moment, like it's kind of hard. Like I didn't want to read into it too much. Like, but I was at the same time, I was like, "What are the odds of that happening? This is so cool." And I remember just thinking to myself, I was like, "Okay, God, like." I'm listening. Like okay, I don't know what you're trying to say in this, but now like I feel like even more so you've got my attention. It's just kind of one of the cool ways I feel like God just like showers his blessing on us. And in that moment I really felt like God was kind of just like giving me the wink, like, "Hey, check it out, like this girl's pretty cool, and I'm gonna kind of give you a little something on top of that." So we had the meal and stuff like that.
So it was really awesome. Yeah, the whole thing was cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. And now we always love eating Thai food. Like it's our favorite thing.
We had Thai food at our wedding reception. No, our rehearsal dinner, yeah.
Yeah, the night before our wedding.
Yeah, so we really love Thai food.
We love Thai food. So if any of you guys own Thai restaurants out there and you want to sponsor the vlog, that would be amazing. So, I mean, that was our first date. It was a lot of fun, and who would have guessed just such a short time after that we ended up getting married. I mean, okay, so this is kind of crazy. And maybe you guys want us to talk about this in like one of our future storytime videos. But from the day that I met Emily at the speed dating event, exactly 1 year after, that's when we got married. So things actually really moved very, very quickly for us. From start to finish, boom, married 1 year. And we moved out to the East Coast, and now we're moving all the way back to the West Coast. And it's just like, it's been a wild roller coaster ride, but it's been a lot of fun. And so we hope you guys enjoy this story time. And if you would like us to do more story times, give us some ideas in the comment section below. Let us know what kind of stories you would like to hear from us, and we'll continue doing that. So until next time, I'm That Christian Vlogger, and I want to encourage you guys to experience faith in the first person. God bless. Oh, real quick before we go, we actually thought it'd be kind of fun for us to reflect on maybe a lesson or two that we learned from our first dates. For many of you guys are still in that like dating phase, and you want to do things maybe in a more Christian way of approaching relationships and dating. So what's a take home that you have for our friends here?
I think on the first date, don't be shy about opening up like your passions, your interests, even talk about God. Maybe don't go into like your deepest, darkest secrets on the first date, but like definitely
we did do that later.
Yeah, once we were kind of like more getting into the engagement phase, because like you want to know everything about that person before you commit your life to living with them. Like, yeah,
but on the first date, be open.
On the first date, be open. Like, don't, because like you want the major values to align if you want to go forward from there.
Yeah, this is really, really good. I think a lot of people wait until like later in their dating relationship to talk about serious things. Like, oh, I don't want to freak them out. Like, oh, they're gonna think I'm a weirdo or whatever the case is. But the truth is, at least from our perspective, dating wasn't like a game. Dating wasn't just something that was just like, oh, you know, something I'm going to do on the side as I do my life. No, dating really should be, I think, something that is like, you can learn a lot about, and it really should have some type of a purpose. And so like it's probably not the best idea to like date someone for like 6 months or a year and then start talking about serious things, because what happens if those like same values don't line up?
Yeah.
What if you don't have like the same purpose in life or the same vision or outlook on your relationship with God, but you're already so like emotionally invested with this other person
and physically invested too?
That's true. And then makes it so much harder to like to end things. It makes it so much harder to break up because you're so invested. You don't want to call it quits after spending all this time. So I definitely agree with that. I think that's really good. Like, start off the relationship on the right foot. You know, you can obviously get to know each other, but if your relationship with God is an important thing, like that shouldn't be something that you hide in your relationship with someone else. That should, in our opinion, that should be like at the very beginning. That should be at the forefront of your relationship with other people. So hopefully that was helpful. We'll see you guys next time.